Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Christine Penny. I am the Global Training and Author Support Manager for Cambridge University Press. One massive function of my job that I really enjoy is working with authors. This session is geared toward authors from around the world across every subject area. This is meant to be a bit more of a behind the scenes look at how publishing works on our end for you as would-be authors, as people who are interested in publishing with Cambridge. It's very possible you've never published before, and this session is the right one for you. If you have published, that's great. Maybe you're just here to kind of get some more information. Yeah, we're going to be going a little bit more in depth than I normally might when it comes to a publication session. But that being said, I also can't promise that I'm going to dive into the depths. I know the majority of us are academics and we love to kind of nerd out about our subject area, which I think is great. And so I'm not going to get to our PhD level in publishing today, but I will get to a certain level, which hopefully supports you and your understanding about how you can best submit to a journal at Cambridge. So to begin, I believe I should be spotlit for everyone to see. I'm going to share my screen. Do, do, do. And I believe you should be able to see that, if someone wouldn't mind confirming that for me. I'm also hoping that you're able to see both my face and the screen. Sometimes Zoom decides to have a mind of its own. So yes, any feedback appreciated at this moment. Brilliant. Thank you so much for the replies. I appreciate that. Thank you for the yeses. Excellent. Great. So this is just a general opening slide. In general, what we have going here, and we've kind of started this last year and we found there was a lot of interest in it, is we in the training team at Cambridge University Press are really keen to help authors kind of open the door for them to step through. I know a lot of potential authors are actually a little intimidated to submit to a journal. So we're trying to help you learn and understand that. So as you've probably discovered when you were signing up for this on our training page or however you got your information, this is a series of 4 workshops. I will be doing all of them. They're held until December. I believe they're every Wednesday, every 3 weeks. I just kind of set it up because, from my understanding, Wednesdays tend to be really good for people. If not, I'm sorry, but you're in luck. I will be posting these as YouTube videos. You are more than welcome to go back to that. We are found, I believe it's Cambridge Academic Training on YouTube. And we are more than happy to share this information and you will have access to this. In addition, if you come to every session, we will send you a certificate of attendance from our training team from Cambridge University Press. You're welcome to post that on LinkedIn or your social media or just file that away for the sake of it. So I would encourage you, if you find this session helpful today, I'm going to be posting a QR code for you at the end where you can sign up for the next workshop if you haven't done so already. I would also say this is less of a workshop. I know I keep using that word, and more of a webinar, but I hope you're able to kind of apply this in your own work and writing as you move forward. Okay, so today's topics are, I'm going to talk a bit about why finding the right journal matters. And I would say that that is kind of a critical juncture for you as you attempt to move forward in your publication journey. We're going to talk a little bit about the specifics about picking the right journal. And then I'm going to give you a bit of an overview about publishing in general, kind of the, shall we say, the timeline or the steps, if you will, along with some support and resources that are available to you from Cambridge. So I know you're just sitting there today and, we talk to ourselves all the time, but I'd love you to ask yourself briefly, how could publishing in a journal affect your academic career? Is it valuable? Why is it valuable? And really, my question is, why does it matter to you? Essentially, why are you here today? Why do you want to know more? Chew on that. You might automatically know the answer, but some people I actually think can't articulate it. I recently gave a presentation in Texas, and actually, people kind of had a hard time articulating why it mattered. So here's a few responses that I think are valuable for authors to actually consider, like why it makes a difference. Why, sure, we want to get published, but let's chew on that for a second. So it's to establish your credibility. It's to expand your network. Maybe that is a great way to kind of make those connections. It's to build your reputation, both in your field and in academia in general. And I'm going to move over to the right here. And alongside that, it could advance your career. A lot of places, bluntly, might not hire you unless you have published. It's also to improve your impact on the world and make your work valuable for other people, and to transform your work into be a recognized contribution. We all have our own value systems and the reason why we do things, but so often, I hope anyway that you're trying to make a difference. And ultimately, it's about getting your message and your point out there. And that's what journals can do for you. Now, I will take this moment and talk about the fact that, look, I also recognize that Cambridge publishes both books and journals. I'm exclusively talking about journals today. I'm not talking about the book publishing process. That being said, it is quite similar, but it does involve working with different people. So if you'd like to learn more about books, you're welcome to shoot me a message, either on email. We're going to have a couple of email addresses available for you, and we can point you in the right direction to talk with the right books publishing people. But today I'm talking exclusively about publishing in a Cambridge journal. Okay, so you've heard of Cambridge and Cambridge University. We are an arm of Cambridge University, and we are very excited to be a part of that. We are very staked in what their mission is, and I would say our mission statement is fully aligned with what they have to say and do. All of our work is founded on having integrity and the ethics behind publishing. There are a lot of people out there who are looking to make money off of your work, and that is not our goal. Our goal is to publish your work for the sake of the betterment, not just of the academic community, but of the world, because we want to make a difference. We are essentially a nonprofit, so we're not here to take your work, make it our own, and say, oh, yeah, now we're going to make money off of you. That's not the goal at all. We're founded on tradition and quality, and we're part of the scholastic community, which is something that we're really excited by and find very important. We currently publish more than 450 peer-reviewed academic journals. So I'm going to say right now, if you ask me, what journal should I publish in? My instant answer will be, I have no idea. 450 journals is a lot. We have hundreds of editors working on these journals, and they are the ones who know this work the best. That being said, you, as a writer, as an author, as an academic, know your work the best. So you are going to have to do a little of that research and work yourself to sort out which journal is best for you, because that is not something I can answer or frankly even recommend, because I don't know your work, and I don't know the majority of the work of that these journals publish. Of course, we all have our own backgrounds and subject areas. My history is in theater myself, so if you're asking me something about microbiology, I will not be able to help you. But thankfully, we have a lot of people who are willing to do so on the other end. We've worked with people from all over the world. I think it's really cool that we've published the work of Sir Isaac Newton, Stephen Hawking, even John Milton. We've been open for 500 years as a publisher, and I just think that's the neatest thing ever. I would say, I believe we're the oldest academic publisher in the world. And we also work with worldwide organizations and publish on behalf of a lot of different societies. That being said, so a lot of our journals are kind of in association with societies, or we publish on their behalf, and essentially are representing them. Now, that being said, some of our journals are really easy to read, and others are inaccessible to the world or only partially accessible. And that is because we firmly believe in the concept of open access. Now, as an academic, you are likely familiar with this, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I want to clarify that for you. I would say at least 50% of our journals, if not more, are available to read under an open access model. And we are working within the next 5 years to get all of them, all 450 plus, because our list is constantly changing, to be open access and visible to the world at large. So, what is open access? Just to clarify, so we're all on the same page, it's a publishing model that makes research available to readers, to literally anyone at no cost. It creates accessibility to what we've published and essentially what you're writing. It increases visibility. It encourages faster dissemination so it can be shared, and it accelerates a response. It gets you into being part of the conversation. I recently took a question from somebody. I don't know if open access was a new concept to them. They were a PhD student. And he goes, "What are the downsides of open access?" And I turned to my colleague who I happened to be with, and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, we can't think of any. So all we think are benefits. Now, that being said, as an author, it's up to you to decide how you want your work to be seen. It's super possible for you to choose if your work gets accepted for publication. It's possible for you to choose for it to be published behind a paywall if the journal is what's called a hybrid journal. Either it has partial paywall or partial paywall plus partial open access. It really depends. But yeah, that's up to you, and you have every right to do that because, again, you ultimately are the owner of your work. So, let's move into the topic about why the right journal matters. A lot of people say, oh, well, this journal's really popular, so I should publish with them. That's like saying, oh, this journal on Formula One or this magazine on Formula One is really popular. And even though I write content about fashion and that has nothing to do with auto mechanics, I want to publish with them. It doesn't work, right? It's the same concept here. Some people are so focused on the big visibility that they lose sight of the reason for publishing at all. So, the main reason for an article's rejection is that it's a misaligned fit, meaning it's really easy for you to be like, oh, I've heard of this one. I'm going to submit my work because I've heard of this one. Or, oh, I like the fact that so and so published with this journal that I know. That's not everything. Submitting to a misaligned journal is way more likely for you not to have your work accepted. So, of course, you're looking for your paper's acceptance into being published in a journal. You also want to connect to the right people. Again, are you going to publish your fashion content on killer heels in a Formula One magazine? Probably not, unless this is a really radical magazine. I don't know. It's the same idea. You need to target the proper audience. And you also want that audience not just to connect to your work, but to also react and respond to it. We're going to talk about this in a little bit about how an impact makes a difference and citations of your work makes a difference and kind of pushes that number up. But also, again, you want to get your work into the right hands, into the right people, so it makes a difference. So ultimately, you need to choose the right journal. Now, like I said, we've got 450 of them. So you're going to have to start doing your own work. And ultimately, the question you need to ask yourself is this: do your work and your goals align with what the journal publishes? How do you figure that out? How do you do that? Well, you need to be familiar with the journals. The other thing you can even do beyond just researching yourself is to talk to people. So consult your network, talk to your colleagues, talk to, I don't know, maybe your mentors, especially people in your field. Consider where they're publishing and why they're publishing there. Talk to people even too about like, All right, you've got this work here, and why are you reading this? Think about things that you yourself are reading. Oftentimes, a journal that you're already reading or active or connected to is might be a good fit because you're already connected to it yourself. You need to evaluate kind of what you shortlist. There are such things as journal selection tools. You can Google those. Cambridge does not have one for our journals themselves, but there are some great selection tools out there that are kind of just mass market general that might support you. But again, you're the only one who can kind of do this work because you know your own work the best. This is a screenshot of our homepage. Cambridge Core is the location where all of our journals are hosted, all of our content. I don't know where you are from in the world or what institution you're associated with, but most institutions have a connection, or shall we say, a subscription or a transformative agreement model with us, where you should be able to access our content. You could go in and browse our journals. You can also look up your subject area in the search bar and browse by subject. And yeah, and see if there's any possibilities there. So ultimately, this is something that you need to look for is scope and fit. And this has to do with kind of your goals and your work. So, things you need to think about what a journal possesses. Is it open access and does that matter to you? If it's not open access and you're looking to publish open access, then instantly that's not going to be the right fit, right? You also need to think about the journal's content's scope. So, is the content kind of connected to what you're doing? Is it really broad? Or is it really, really specific in your subject area? Some journals kind of have, this has to do, like I said, with readership in the next point as well, have a really broad range and it covers a lot. And that's great. But maybe your work is really, 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 really specific and pointed. And that's also, or the topic that you're kind of writing about. So if this journal doesn't touch on those kinds of things very often, you're not going to be a good fit for that journal. Like you're trying to find the right work for you. Along with that, I'm not going to, I might talk about article type in just a minute, but I'm not going to get deep into that. Something else you need to recognize, some journals only publish particular kinds of writing. So like more data oriented, again, I'll show you in just a minute, but yeah, so if you're seeing that a lot of what this journal is publishing is not similar to kind of the style or the article type that you're writing in, yeah, you need to consider that. Like, is this even a possibility? And along with that, you also need to think about the things that they typically publish or the content they typically publish. An example that I like to use happened very recently, actually. I had an institution in India reach out to me and say, okay, we have an Africa Studies department. We would really like to connect with your Africa journal. We're interested in publishing with them. I was like, oh, that sounds so interesting. How nice. I know nothing about them. So personally, I reached out to the editor. This wouldn't always happen. So this institution was in luck. I reached out to the editor and I had a conversation with them and I said, okay, this institution is interested. And the editor said to me, look, we're so glad that they're in that subject area, but bluntly, we will not publish any of their publication, any of their work, because we solely publish from people who are working in Africa right now. We're not publishing work from outside sources, basically from people outside looking in. And I think where this India institution went wrong is that they weren't actually familiar enough with the journal. They had clearly not read that content. And it's likely that if they had, they would have known that information and they would have saved themselves a lot of time. So that's something very much to consider. Now, let's pretend that you've decided or you're interested in checking out this journal. This is a screenshot of the Journal of Child Language on our Cambridge Core page. This page is going to give you all the information you need to know. You could get on and you could look up the specific articles that they're publishing. Here's the abstract about what this journal is about. And then also everything on the left-hand side here is going to give you tons of information. Who the editorial board is. I mean, maybe you have a connection with some somebody on that editorial board. I don't know what the contact details are, how to get a hold of people, what the metrics are, which I'm going to talk about later, about the reviews, abstracting. And then this is going to be critical, and I'm going to mention this a little bit later, are the author instructions. Every journal has specific author instructions to them. You cannot be like, well, I submitted to this other journal, so it'll be the same for this. It is never the case. Every journal is really, really particular with what they want. So help yourself out and follow those instructions to the letter. Don't just be like, oh, they'll let this one go. It's fine. They won't. That'll be a really easy reason for them to be like, yep, no, thank you, right as soon as you submit, which I guess saves you time, but I don't know. I don't think that's productive for anyone. You can also learn about their policies, their peer review information, how it functions, etc. This is a great place for you to look and learn more about that journal if you're interested. So, in choosing the right journal, especially when it comes to scope and fit, read the aims and scope submission guidelines on the journal. Consider their key topics, their style, etc. Consider where the journal lands in the hierarchy of your field. Is this journal really well respected? Is it highly read? Is that what you're looking for? Or are you wanting to start kind of in a niche market? So maybe you should be pursuing a niche journal. I don't know. It's up to you. Something else that these are things that you need to look for, which I've got on the right, are consider the journal's peer review policy. I showed you right on the left. It tells you. Every journal has that on the Cambridge page. It tells you what our peer review policy is. Does it comply with your funding available to you as well? I've not talked about a TA, and I'm not going to so much right now, and I kind of mention it in the next point. But you have to think about how you're going to pay for your potential publication. The payment is only necessary once you've been accepted for publication, which is kind of later on in the process. But that is something you have to think about. If for instance, your institution has a transformative agreement with Cambridge, it is likely that you will be covered and you could publish with one of those journals. But some institutions also have a limited transformative agreement, and not all journals are covered. So you have to think about that. Lots to consider in your selection. Here's the article type slide. Sorry, I thought it was a little bit earlier. Every journal is also publishing all kinds of different things, right? So if you are trying to publish something about your applied research and you see that a journal is mostly publishing reviews or methods, you're not going to be a right fit, right? Lots here to consider. So here's a bit of a, shall I say, checklist for you to think about as you're kind of trying to analyze the scope and fit of a potential journal for you. You've got aim and scope. Is it open access or non-open access? How do the author guidelines work with what you need to do, and make sure that you follow them if you are considering? Where's this journal ranked, which I'm going to talk about in a minute? Is this journal, does it have international reach, or is it only local? I would say local does have to do with some of our journals, but thankfully Cambridge is a worldwide institution. So basically, for the most part, we do have international reach. I can't really think of any exception, but it's worth mentioning. And along with that, also consider the rejection rate. You can't always tell what their rejection rate is, but it is possible to find it. Maybe you've spoken with other people. Yeah, so definitely think about that, because probably some journals are more popular than others, but they're also getting more submissions than others. Yeah, so think about that in terms of also how long you are potentially considering waiting with your content. I do also want to mention here, I think most authors tend to understand this, but generally, in terms of the ethics of article submission, you should not be shopping your article around to multiple journals at a time. That's not appropriate. It's kind of, it's essentially not how this works. It's kind of trying to this isn't like submitting your CV or your resume to multiple jobs and hoping that one will land with you. That's not what this is. So that's why journal submission matters, because when you make that submission, you're in like the very intentional hope of wanting to work together. The other thing is, if you submit to a wrong journal, journal processing time and looking even at the peer review of your article, etc., can take a while. This does not happen overnight. I wish I could say it did, but alas, there's a lot going on. Our editors are very, very busy. So you are submitting essentially a chunk of your time by submitting your article, your work to a particular journal. And if it's the wrong journal, you're wasting everyone's time, including your own. There's no need for you to be wasting time only to be told that you're rejected. There's, I don't know, a month or two of your life or more gone when that article, if it had been submitted to the right journal, um, could have been clipping along and getting published faster. What to look for. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about journal impact, and it does matter. This is something to consider. But just because a journal is the most popular doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one for you. Maybe it does. Can't tell you that. That's up to you. So, you need to think about how working with this journal will enhance your career and enhance your readership. Is this going to be valuable to you? Or maybe you're like, oh, I just want to take it easy and I want to think about a smaller journal. That's fine. But also think about, again, this is a mutual relationship, right? We're here for you, but we're also keen to publish your work at the same time. Okay. So this has to work for you as well. So, the way to figure out whether or not a journal on a Cambridge site has, shall we say, impact or is being visible is what we work with through what we call altmetrics. And altmetric takes all of this content and basically it talks in real time about how an article is being seen and used essentially across the internet. It's a quantitative measure of online attention. We're talking social media sites. We're talking X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about mentions. We're talking about who is seeing it, where it's being seen, how it's being talked about. So that's how you can measure a journal's impact. I believe every single one of our journals, for the most part, has this cute little colorful wheel with a number inside it next to it, if it is being measured by altmetrics next to it on the journal page. I'm not sure if I have a screenshot for you, but it's very visible if you go and visit that journal's page on Cambridge. There are other metric scores and scorers throughout the industry. Those are published by different publishers or focused on different platforms. For instance, Web of Science, that's through Clarivate. But again, those do not cover all journals and they're only ones under certain databases. So Altmetric is the one that we use and the one that we focus on because it does cover our journals and it's really helpful in terms of learning where this particular journal lands in terms of its impact on the world. Ah, there's my screenshot. I thought I had one. So we've got it right here, and it's telling you, look, this was mentioned by, it's teeny, teeny, tiny, but it's about the attention score. This is it looks like a pretty high performing journal, which is great. It also is telling you where it's being mentioned. So it's mentioned a lot, apparently, in the US. Looks like it's being mentioned in Brazil, Australia, and the United Kingdom, Canada, even Mexico. Yeah, perhaps maybe you're based in, say, Spain. And like it doesn't look like it's being mentioned in Spain. Well, maybe you want to be the first person to be in Spain who works with this. Great. Maybe you want to start the conversation going in your country, in your area. That's awesome. That's essentially what Altmetrics is covering, and this is something you should be considering. Now, is this everything? No. Um, these are all of the things that it's looking over. It's looking at novelty, and that is something you also need to consider about your work. Your work, bluntly, actually does need to be unique. If you're going to be just kind of trying to regurgitate something that someone else has done, it's really possible that the journal won't be interested because they want to publish new and exciting work. We're talking about significance, relevance, quality. Is your data interpretation unique and still valid. Is your style and presentation? Is it clear? Does it make sense? Now we're getting a little bit more into the writing of things, but these are all things that are kind of contributing to journal metrics and how people are interacting with the work. I love this slide. Somebody else had kind of discussed this with me, and I thought that made a lot of sense. Like I was saying earlier, it's really easy to be like, all right, metrics make the most difference in the world and it matters the most. Not necessarily. It does matter and it is important, but cost, topic, access, reputation, etc. All of these things are things that you need to be considering in addition to the alt metrics. So the alt metric should not be your only factor for journal selection and publication. Okay, so, just in brief, I just want to make sure that everyone understands how publication works on kind of the back end. A lot of what we've been talking about has talked about in part one here. I call these the 7 steps to publication. Some of them kind of overlap and they blend a little, but I appreciate the clarity of this slide. We've been talking a lot about kind of the preparation of your manuscript and how best and where to submit your manuscript. So that's part one. So once you submit, and I'll show you a couple of those steps in a minute, then it goes into a peer review decision, and it kind of goes back and forth, and that's where this critical decision is made. And that's why you need to choose the right journal because you don't want to get rejected, right? Like that's not the goal. Ultimately, you want to be in conversation with these people and have essentially valuable feedback, and I'll mention that in a moment, from peer reviewers, from your editors. So this is, able to push your work forward. Then it moves through, and if it's accepted under the publication decision part in part two, that's where you'd pay the APC transaction, or your institution would if you have a transformative agreement with Cambridge. Yes, and then from there, it would go into production and hopefully publication. Yay, which I find very exciting. So I'm including this submission checklist for you. By the way, I will be sending these slides out to you. You will get a copy of these completely on us. We're more than happy to kind of support you with this content, which I think is a kind of a helpful thing to just kind of go through and make sure everything is really, really clean and clear before you click submit on our site. I'm not going to go over all these things now, but hopefully this is a valuable resource for you. So we're back to this page. Let's pretend that you've decided to submit to the Journal of Child Language. How would you do that? It's not too hard. Right there, it says submit your article. It's right at the top. You can see it up there. It says submit your article announcements. It's literally every journal on our on Cambridge Core has a little button just like that. So there it is. And that's where it would be submitted to our online peer review system. In order to do that, you need an ORCID ID that is unique to you, and I believe it stays with you for life. So if you already have one, don't do it again. Yes, but that stays with you and that's always yours. So, and I also love that even this page has this journal accepts open access, which is exciting. And it also talks about corresponding authors. That's a bit more detail I'm not going to get into right now. Yeah, and you have to complete these steps. Again, I'm not going to say self-explanatory, but kind of is for the most part. I'm not going to get into this detail. And then from there, you've submitted and it's in and it's out of your hands. And that's where it lands into peer review. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because we've got a session coming about peer review, I believe, in 3 weeks or maybe 6 weeks, I forget which. And this is kind of how it functions here. We've got submitting to a journal and it kind of goes into the first stage screening. And that's kind of where a desk rejection happens. That's what it's called. Either this isn't the right content or you've got too many spelling errors, or or it's out of the scope. For instance, we know you're not boots on the ground in Africa, so that's all we publish. So we're not actually going to even consider this because it's the wrong thing. Your goal is to get through that screener and actually get to the other side of being with peer reviewers. So you'll see here, it's this nice little flow chart. Again, you'll have access to it. This is a little bit, now we're assuming that it's made it through that desk part. And you have a lot of other options. Sometimes you'll be asked to revise and resubmit. In fact, that's more common than not. Just because somebody says, ooh, try again, it doesn't mean your work is bad. And please don't take that personally. You need to consider this as a valuable form of feedback. Yeah, I'm not going to talk a lot about this as we've got a whole nother session surrounding this. But this is also potentially really valuable for you and your work and moving it forward. So remember, rejections are not dead ends, but opportunities to refine your research. And then hopefully from there, a publication decision has come back 2 thumbs up. Yes, we'll take it after all of this back and forth. I will say the great thing about Cambridge editors is that they do tend to be in good communication with you. Can't say it's going to be fast. Like I said, it's not happening in 24 hours, but when it moves into a particular stage, they will communicate with you and have conversations about where things are at. And then it goes through production. Again, I'm not going to get into this, all this nitty-gritty about what happens, but you do have a chance to proof it before it's published, and then you get a link to it. And I don't know, I can think of very few more exciting things than seeing my work published, in a journal. So now, if this is new for you, maybe you're a little bit overwhelmed, and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels like a lot, or I can do this, but I still have some questions. Cool, we're there for you. We've got a lot of content on our core page, kind of surrounding, we've got something called the Author Hub, along with bluntly just a lot of like PDFs and kind of layouts for you, and a lot of kind of writing surrounding how to support you. We've got user guides, tons of resources. We're happy to answer your questions. I'll be showing you a couple of email addresses shortly, along with the fact that we do have personal communication, which is great. I've heard that a lot of publishers don't necessarily do that, and it might be a form email. I'm not going to say that's never going to happen with us, but we more often than not, you're going to hear from a person because remember, our editors are people, and they're absolute professionals who are very keen to support you. Again, these are all our things, and these are a couple of email addresses. I'm going to show you these again. The OA Queries inbox is always helpful, always listening. And then our inbox for our team particularly is the academic training inbox. Then we also do have something available called Author Services. This is for you if you feel like maybe you're struggling with your language, or if you are not the strongest writer and you want some support on that. Maybe you even want help with some graphics that you're trying to build and you're struggling and you're not able to really make them on your own. We can help with that. Now, that being said, this is not a part of any kind of subscription model. This is not a part of this is not an assumption that you will receive this as a result of acceptance. This is a paid service. But that being said, we do offer a lot. This is a QR code with a link to that page. I'm not going to navigate there now, but it does look like this on the left. Yeah, and you can even Google Cambridge Author Services. It should be the first link that comes up. And these are all the things we offer. So we offer language editing, translation, publication support, maybe your communication skills, you're just having a hard time kind of getting into the right lingo, along with research communication. We're really happy to help you. You can log on to that site. You can even get a quote for how much it will be, which I personally find very useful. We love to do that. Just literally, you can even just type in, well, I think my article is about 3,000 words. I'd like it to be copy edited. I wonder how much that would cost. That cost will be based on the amount of time you're willing to allot for that. Yeah, and we also offer different levels and layers. I'm not going to get into those specifics. You're welcome to look at that for yourself. But yeah, there's a lot of different specifics and things to consider. But ultimately, the goal is to help you. Yeah, oh yeah, these are the languages that we translate from between Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, or Spanish, which might apply to you. I don't know. We might have many language speakers here today. And as for joining us today, we wanted to offer you a 10% discount code. This discount code is good for a year from today. So you are more than welcome to use it as often as you would like. Yeah, so that's WK25 EMEA. And again, feel free to copy and paste that. And this will be available in the set of slides that we're going to send you. And we'll hopefully, I believe we'll also highlight that for you in our follow-up email. The other thing that we're doing, and you already know this because you're already here, we have these author training workshops that I mentioned at the beginning. We're doing these four workshops this fall. I don't have the dates on here, but they are available on our site, which is on the Cambridge Core page. That is a QR code to go to that site itself. Later on, I'm going to have a QR code for you if you'd like to register for our next workshop, which is in 3 weeks' time from today. And the next one is reasons for rejection and how to avoid them. That focuses quite a bit on writing. If you are a strong writer, you maybe are all okay and you don't need it, don't want it. Feel free to show up anyway. You never know what you're going to learn. And like I said, these videos will be available on YouTube, which you're more than welcome to access anytime. Yeah, and like I said too, if you show up to all four of these, we are keeping track based on your email address. If you keep switching email addresses, that is not going to help you out. But based on your email address, if you attend all four of these, you can get a certificate of attendance from us. So from there, I am now more than happy to take your questions and answers. We have covered how to submit. We've covered the points about how to avoid rejection by submitting to the wrong journal. And we've talked about the great and right ways for submitting to the right journal for you. And the fact that that does take a little work, but hopefully is not as arduous as it might sound, because ultimately you probably already know the answer for yourself with something that you're familiar with. So, I am seeing a couple of Q&A questions. First, I'm going to check the chat because sometimes, yep, that looks good. Okay. I think I've answered everything in the chat thus far. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the Q&A box and I will attempt to answer it. Let's see, when choosing a target journal, this is what specific signals and AIM scope issues editorials show a genuine appetite for review articles? That's a great question. I'm not sure. Um, I would say for me, this is just kind of jumping on it because, like I said, every journal is particular unto itself. Has it published review articles before? To me, that seems kind of the maybe the easiest answer in a case like this. But yeah, has it published them in the past? That probably indicates that that is what it's willing to go for. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. Any other questions at all? And I'm actually going to advance this. So if you would like to sign up directly for our next webinar in 3 weeks' time from now, you are more than welcome to use your phone and use that QR code. It should go directly there. Other questions? I will say some of this stuff, I do definitely get into more detail when it comes to our other presentations. But that being said, again, I'm sorry to repeat this, but every journal is so unique that kind of having those conversations with the journals themselves, kind of researching the journal itself, they are going to know that best. Yeah. That's an interesting question about kind of what are the indicators for whether or not it's going to publish a review. Yeah, I think that's my best suggestion. Has it published reviews before? Other questions at all? I'm going to give this another 30 seconds or so. If you have a question, feel free to put it into the Q&A. And I've got another question. This is great. Are special issues or invited reviews a better route? How can I find and time suitable calls for papers? Yeah, that's a fair question. Especially using invited, yeah. Yes. So, I'm going to say a couple of things. First of all, you might do well to become a reviewer yourself. I'm not sure how you're positioned in your career right now. Um, yeah, so that's possible. I will say some journals do actually have kind of live like requests on their journal page. I've frankly, I've even seen this with other publishers, and I'm pretty sure we have those ourselves, based on the journal. They are sometimes they publish like far and wide, either on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on, I don't know, other social media. I mean, I doubt they're on Instagram. Maybe they are. I have no idea. But yeah, there's such a variety of sources that you would probably have to do a little research for yourself. Yeah, I believe too, I don't know if all of these journals, some societies do send out regular newsletters and call for papers. And the societies that we publish with, or kind of publish on behalf of, um, they I don't know. That might be the way to go, kind of research what society a particular journal is associated with. I don't believe there's going to be any like massive Cambridge newsletter call for papers. Maybe that exists and I've never heard of it. Our organization is large, but not that large. I will say something else that I personally have found useful. There are a lot of institutions kind of based, there's one, especially in America, somebody kind of, I guess, out of the goodness of their heart, does a roundup of these are all the conferences that we know of that are going on within the next month. These are all the journals that we know of that are making a call for this. Frankly, I would get on listservs, on distribution lists, start putting your name in, and getting yourself connected. I would highly recommend that. I mean, I have colleagues who do that, who are not even editors, but just to kind of keep their ear to the ground with what's going on in the industry. I hope that's helpful. In a way, it's kind of this strange balance between putting yourself out there and kind of seeking out answers yourself. Yeah. Thank you so much to those of you that are saying thanks. You're more than welcome to leave at any time. I will wait another 30 seconds or so if there are any additional questions. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure having everyone here today. Thank you so much for coming. And we really appreciate the fact that you're interested in working with us. We're very keen to work with you. Something I haven't mentioned, but I hope goes without saying, but I always like to say it anyway. We're just because we're based in the UK, although, yes, I'm an American. You can probably tell by my accent. Even though we're based in the UK, we're interested in voices from all over the world. Just because you're based in, I don't know, South Africa, or you're based in Japan doesn't mean that no, we're not interested. We're always interested. We're interested in voices from everywhere. So please feel free to submit anyway, because your nationality should not preclude you from being able to submit. Well, hearing no other questions, I'm going to end this conversation, and again say thank you for joining. Please feel free to sign up for our future workshops, and I'm really happy to have you here today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Lovely. Thank you all so much. Thanks, everyone.